retail cost, and then we've got retail conventional, which is really what?
Lower cost.
Yeah, estimating lower cost or more. Okay? And people who would use this are people who are going to, they're counting their inventory, physically counting it, and they know what the retail sales price is because they don't want to go look up all the costs and keep track of all the costs. So you take your retail sales price now times the quantity in your inventory, and it gives you your inventory at retail. And then what we're going to do is we're going to adjust it down to what cost would be. Make sense? And compute the cost of goods sold that way too. You know your beginning inventory plus your purchases. These people would, of course, be periodic, not perpetual. Okay? Okay, so perpetually you already have an idea. Okay, okay, anyway, you be tracking the cost. Then there's another one, retail what? They say it's without fluctuating prices, but it's just retail that is going to be equivalent of LIFO. And I suppose cost approximates FIFO or average or something, probably average really. Okay, and then there's one that's LIFO. Okay, and then we've got dollar value retail LIFO, or retail dollar value LIFO, or however you want to write it. Okay, that's the other one. So what are the differences between these? And that's the real thing. What do you do?
It's the markups and markdowns.
It's the markups and markdowns on the first two, isn't it? Yeah. Okay. On the first two, it's the markups and markdowns. So what we're going to do on these first two, okay, is if it's cost, we are in calculating our ratios. Cost to retail ratio, the relationship between cost and retail. If you know your cost to retail percentage, it's like a cost of goods sold percentage, right? Your percentage of cost is. You take that cost to retail percentage times the retail sales price, and it'll give you your approximate cost of the inventory. Make sense? You take that ratio times the inventory to retail, you got it, don't you? Yeah, you got your estimate of cost. By the way, you always value the inventory first and subtract that from goods available to get cost of goods sold. Don't go the other way around. Don't calculate the cost of goods sold first, because these different methods will give you different answers doing that. Okay? All right. So this one includes, it's the way you remember it, and it makes sense, both markups and markdowns. Oh, by the way, they have markup and markdown cancellations, don't they? What does that mean? I marked up the price and then I canceled it. Of course, you just net the two, right? In every problem they do that. So don't let that bother you. And then markdowns, I marked it down and then I canceled it, so I marked it back up again, right? So you always take the difference between the markups and the markup cancellations and the markdowns and the markdown cancellations. Do that before you calculate your ratios, okay? Then, so that's the first one, retail cost, okay? Conventional or lower cost or market, to approximate that, what I want is what, a higher or a lower percentage?
Lower.
Because I'm getting ending inventory, and with LIFO, last in, first out, my ending inventory, assuming inflation, would be what? I'm sorry, with lower cost or market. God, I want to lower it. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself, I apologize. Okay, on the lower of cost or market, what's going to happen? Do I want a higher inventory value or a lower inventory value for this thing?
Is it the lower?
You want the lower? Yeah. So how are you lower cost or market?
Yeah.
My market estimate would be lower than my cost estimate, right? Okay, could be lower. So what am I going to try and do here? What do I include in my ratio?
Just markups, right?
Okay, which is going to give me a lower estimate. That's the reason, okay? Now what's different with LIFO? With LIFO, I'm going to include both markups and markdowns. And I guess you could do it in a lower cost or market LIFO too, but I've never seen anybody do that in a textbook at least. Include both markups and markdowns. Okay. But what am I going to want to do? Separate
Beginning inventory.
yeah, the beginning inventory from the additions. So what I'll do is I'll do two cost to retail percentages. One that applies to the beginning inventory and one that applies to the increase in inventory. So it's going to, like, you got to have layers of inventory. Okay, got the idea? All right. And then dollar value, what are we going to do? Same thing as LIFO here, but then I'm going to add one other piece, plus what? Account for price index changes. Just like we did in the last chapter with dollar value LIFO. Only now it's dollar value retail LIFO. So I'm going to have both. I'm going to have that cost percentage, right? Cost to retail percentage. Okay. And I'm going to separate beginning inventory, and I'm going to account for price index changes. Okay. So those are the four you've got to keep straight. Everybody good? So let's take a problem. We can take their example if you want and work through it. What is going on here? This thing does not want to let me have another page. Did that earlier. Oh well, I guess we'll just go down the page. Strange. All right. So let's take a look at the data that they gave you on page 491. The beginning inventory is the top there. The beginning inventory at cost of retail. Cost is what I bought it for. Retail is my normal sales price. They have purchases. They know the cost. They know what they sell it for retail. Markups. By the way, notice on the markups, markup cancellations, the markdowns, the markdown cancellations, those only affect retail. Doesn't change what you paid for it. Of course, they don't affect the cost, right? Okay. So they're adjustments, aren't they? Right? To the retail sales price, and then they have sales. So you know, if you had your beginning inventory at retail, and you added all your purchases at retail, you'd have available at retail. Then you could subtract your ending inventory at retail, or I'm sorry, you could subtract your sales at retail. Available less sales would be what? Ending inventory at retail. Take the ending inventory times the cost of retail percentage. That's your inventory, don't you? Okay. So that's basically what we're going to do. So take a look at, on the first one, they're doing a cost to retail. Now, to do the first one without, with only markdowns. So what's the first one they're doing there in part A? They're only including markdowns, not including markups to get their percentage. I'm sorry, I said it backwards. They're including only markups, right? And markup cancellations to get their first percentage. On part A there on page 491. Which one must they be doing in A there? That's conventional or lower cost of market, right? Okay, so conventional or lower cost or market. You're going to just set it up. That's what? Do a cost column, do a retail column, and of course it doesn't have to look like this, but the calculation is the same. We got beginning inventory, and notice we're not doing LIFO. We're not doing last in, first out, so we're merging the beginning inventory with the additions, right? Okay, you're not really doing FIFO either, you're kind of doing an average, okay? So the beginning inventory at cost was 500, they show you. Retail is 1,000, right? And then what we're going to do is we're going to add our purchases, and when they say purchases net, what do they mean?
After allowances.
After purchase discounts and purchase returns and allowances. Yeah, okay, sure. Okay. By the way, if it's a return, you take it out of cost and retail both, wouldn't you? If it's an allowance, you just take it out of allowance, you take out of both too. What about a discount? Only the cost wouldn't affect return. Yeah, so you got to think about what gets affected by it if you're adjusting for it. Sure. Okay. So then, what's available? Oh, I guess I didn't write it down. Was it 20,000 and 35,000? They said. Yeah. Okay. So by the way, could we get a cost to retail percentage when we start? Sure, it's 50%, right? 500 divided by 1,000. That's what it would have been last year, right? Okay, but we're gonna have a new one for this year, including that. Okay. When we get to LIFO, we'll use that separately. True? This cost of retail percentage is 50%. It's just cost is 50% retail. All right. So because we're going to do the lower cost or market, well, first available, sorry. How much is available? 20,500 and 36,000. Yes. Okay. All right. They're going to add the markups. And let's just say net. What do I mean by that? Add the markups, net of cancellations. So that's how I do it. So that's 3,000 less 1,000 is 2,000, right? So my markups are 2,000. So look what happens here when we do this, okay? Getting my totals to do my percentage, to do my cost of retail, okay, for lower cost of market. What do I have? 20,500 and 38,000, right? So what's 20,500 divided by 38? They got 53.9%, didn't they? So their cost is going up as a percent of the sales prices. Last year was 50%. Now, including averaging in last year is 53.9. Okay. But if you left that 2 out of there, what's 20,500 divided by 36?
57.
Yeah, so putting in the markups does what? It drives it down, doesn't it? If I included the markdowns, so this one is the one for lower of cost or market, right? Conventional. Let's put in now, like they do in Part B, okay? Let's put in deduct the markdowns. Okay, let's add that. Let's do them net. So what are the markdowns net? 2,500 less 2,000? It's 500, right? So I'm going to subtract 500. It's only going to come out of the retail sales price, of course. Okay? So this time I'd have 20,500 divided by 37,500. And what just happened to us because we included those markdowns? This goes up to 54.7%. So when I take my ending retail inventory, either times 53.9% or times 54.7, I'll clearly get different numbers, right? Which one's going to be the smaller number? Right? That's it. That's all you're doing, by including the markups, right? And not the markdowns. So it's sort of a really rough approximation, is the idea. Okay? So then what would you do to find out your ending inventory? We know what's available. This is still what's available, right? These numbers are still what's available. What do you do?
Subtract the sales.
Yeah, that's it. In either case, you just subtract the sales, okay? It's 25,000, okay? By the way, be careful. After you get this percentage, if you're doing conventional or lower cost or market, you still have to deduct the markdowns, right? Still got to deduct them, don't forget to. They're already deducted if you're using, what do we call this method? Cost, right? If you're using the cost method, it's already deducted. The 500 is already out of there. Don't deduct it twice. But if you're doing the conventional or lower cost or market, you have to remember to take it out to get your ending inventory. It's going to be the same ending inventory either way. That makes sense? Okay. So what were our sales?
25,000.
And we know what the sales were. We know what the sales are at retail, of course. So what this is the sales here, isn't it? What we want is cost of goods sold here. That makes sense? Into the cost column. Okay? So this is going to be my ending inventory at retail. So I had 37.5 available, right? I sold 25 of it. What do I have for ending inventory at retail? 12,005, right? Okay. Now, if I'm doing lower of cost or market, what's my ending inventory? So first we'll do lower of cost or market.
13, then you take off the 500.
It'd be 12,5 times, well, no, we've got the 500 out of the way. If I had 38,000 and I took away 25, I'd have 13. You're right.
Right.
And then I take away the 500 and I still have 12,5.
Yeah.
My ending inventory is still going to be 12,5, but that's a retail. What do I do if I'm using the lower cost or market method though? I take the 12,5 times what? The first one. You got it. Okay? So for lower of cost or market, what's my ending inventory? At cost. I would take 12,5 times 53.9%. What's that?
6,738.
Okay, 6,738, is that what they had in their example two? 53.9%?
They just gave the percentage.
Well, they didn't do it, they just talked about it. Oh, 637.50, there it is. On page 492 in the lower box, there it is. 63750, you got the idea? So what would cost of goods sold be? This is my ending inventory at lower cost or market. Right? One at retail, one at cost. And I just use my percentage to get there. So what's cost of goods sold? If this is what's available at cost, and this is the ending inventory at cost, isn't the difference cost of goods sold? Sure it is. How much is that? That's my last step, is to calculate the cost of goods sold. Author doesn't do that in their examples, but really you do it, of course. You know, what you start with plus what you buy is what's available, less your ending inventory is cost of goods sold. That's all we're doing here. How much is that?
13,762.
Okay, we got it. Everybody good? So get first the ending inventory, then back into the cost of goods sold. Okay, now, so that's lower of cost or market. Let's switch to cost now. Let's do exactly the same thing. What if I wanted my inventory instead of at lower of cost or market? Okay, all that's lower of cost or market. Let's do the same thing at cost. What would it be? I'd subtract those sales and I would get the same ending inventory, correct? What would that ending inventory be? 25,000. Whoops, sorry, you subtract 25,000 sales, you get 12,500. Thank you. It'd be the same 12,500, wouldn't it? At retail, it's the same. It's just going to be different when we calculate its cost, right? So now let's do this on the cost method, right? It's 54.7, isn't it? So I'm going to use that ratio now. So it's 12.5 cost to retail ratio times 0.547. How much is that? Somewhere they did that one too, didn't they?
6,837. 6,837.
6,838. You guys good with that? That's the ending inventory, right? Okay. Well, what would the cost of goods sold be? Plug that in there. What would you do? Still 20,500 available, right, guys? Subtract 6,838, and what do you have?
13,662.
Yeah. That's all there is to it. Okay. Obviously, if you lower the inventory for making it lower for lower in cost or market, you are going to increase your cost of goods sold. Isn't that true? If prices are increasing, I'm sorry, lower cost or market. If I reduce the inventory with lower cost or market, what happens? I'm going to have more cost of goods sold, right? It's available, it's the same either way. You guys good? So let's use their same example, and let's do LIFO. Okay. Something said wrong. insert blank page. Okay, fine. It'd be one big slideshow. All right, one big slide. Okay, let's try the same thing with LIFO, okay? So let's do retail LIFO, no inflation. What do you do with that one? Still going to have cost. We're still going to have retail. I'm going to put everything in exactly the same order except what? I'm going to put my beginning inventory in and separate it from everything I added. So what was the beginning inventory again?
100 and 1,000.
And this time, this percentage matters to me. Because that's going to be the last thing I sell. Right? Last in, first out, I'm going to sell all the new stuff before I sell any of that. Okay? So draw a line there and you got it. Okay? Separate it. Then what happens? Purchases, net, purchase discounts, purchase returns, and allowances. And what do you have? 20,000, same, and 35,000. Okay? Before you do your percentages, though, what do you want to do? Include both the markups and the markdowns. So let's do markups net of markup cancellations, huh? Let's do markdowns net of markdown cancellations. And you know, these are going to, this is going to give me exactly the same layout that I would have done with the cost method, right? Except I've separated the beginning inventory. So everything otherwise tracks exactly the same. Okay? So markups were 3,000, cancellations are 1,000, so we said that was 2,000, right? And it increases the sales price, increases the retail sales price. So we'd add that. Does nothing to the cost. Markdowns, 2,500 less 2,000, right? Is 500 net markdown. That lower the sales price would have nothing to do with the cost. So now what I've got is all my additions. Okay? Beginning inventory plus all my additions. So this is 20,000. What do I have over here? 37 less 500 is 365, is that right? And what we would do is get a new cost to retail percentage for the new layer. Got it? Okay, so what's that going to be? 4.8. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to add them together to find out what's available. Which, you know, 20,000 plus the 500 I started with, I added 20 to 500. This is going to be exactly the same as with the other two methods we just did, right? It's the same stuff. 1,000 plus 36.5 is 37.5. Then what are we going to want to do? Subtract sales, which was 25,000. Okay. Well, what do I have now? And this is the sales, and I'm going to want cost of goods sold over here too, aren't I? Right? When I get done. So what do I have left for ending inventory? Same number, 12.5. Matter what method you use, retail is still going to be the same. All right, but what do you want to do? That 12.5 consists of two layers now, right? There's 1,000 beginning, right? Times 50%, which is the cost factor, right? Cost of retail. That's the $500. So you didn't have to make the calculation. It's just that beginning inventory of 500, isn't it? And then what are you going to add to it? How much more to get up to 12.5? 11.5. Times what? You got it. New layer, the new stuff we bought is 54.8. And we're assuming there is no inflation here, right? No price level changes. So what's 11.5 times 54.8?
6301.
Add the two together, and you will get your ending inventory at cost. Looks like it's 6,801, right? So you put the 6801 over here. Okay, that's ending inventory. This is cost. Remember, this is retail. And what do we have?
13,699.
So you can see they change, right? Depending on which method you use. If costs are increasing, what would you expect? Your ending inventory would be less, right? Than under the other methods. Was it? 6801 compared to 6838 compared to 6738, yeah. So it's less than it would have been a cost, right? At an average cost. But actually the lower cost of marketing went lower than it. Yeah. Okay.
So is it usually like that? Like, is it usually between those two?
Oh, no, it depends how much lower it is on the lower cost of market. Lower cost of market could be as high as cost, right? Yeah. So, but are we good? Calculate those? So what's the last piece we have to add? What if go back. We'll use our example in the second part so you can see the text here. Same type of thing. Here we just did LIFO retail stable prices on page 498, 497, 498. That's the example we just did using earlier numbers. Okay, stable prices. What about fluctuating prices? What are we going to have to do if the price index changes?
Dollar value.
You got to pull in that dollar value stuff. So you got different layers, and you're going to have to deflate the inventory, right? And then do what? Separate it, right, into the base, and then subsequent year, and then reinflate the subsequent year. Okay, so let's give this thing a start. Let's try. All right, let's see. So on this one, take a look on page 499. So notice their beginning inventory. Going down here a little bit. Okay, so this is going to be retail dollar value LIFO. It's going to turn your brain inside out after a while. Numbers.
Yeah, I'm curious to see how you set things up, because I did some problems.
A little differently. They
Yeah.
got the same answer though?
No,
Oh.
I mean, I kind of started with the same dollar value method, kind of how you laid it out for the earlier, just regular
Yeah.
dollar value.
It should sort of work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got somewhere along.
Some went crazy. Okay. So what would we do here, you guys? How would you approach this thing? If you've got maybe we did 2 years. Yeah, they got it. They got it. Okay, so the example they give you on page 499, they say the ending inventory at retail is 15,000, and if you've had 25% inflation during the year, you take the 15 and divide by 1.25, and then they would subtract the beginning inventory at retail, which is in the base year dollars, right? So you bring all the inventory back down to base year dollars, which is the same as we would have done, right? With earlier, when it's just regular dollar value LIFO. Then your new layer, you bring back up. So it's all at retail now, okay? And then what are you going to do? you're gonna have to deflate you're gonna have to take the new layer times the cost index, the cost of retail percentage for that particular year, okay? And so they show that over on page 500, the next page over. So at year-ended base prices is an example of it. It's 50,000. They've got a base layer of 45 and the new layer of 5. The price index changed. The base, they leave at the base dollars. The new layer is at 112, and the cost of retail percentage for the first year was 60%. That's in your base inventory. And the next year, 70%. Multiply them out, and you've got, okay, with the fluctuating prices. Let's use our example. It's not enough. Let's use these. What did we get under? Let's assume some sort of inflation rate. We had a beginning inventory. Let's say this is the base layer. It's only 500, right? $1,000 retail, 500 cost. And then we've got a new layer here. Additions are 20,000 and 36.5. Cost 20,000, 36.5 retail. And so we've got our two cost of retail percentages, and you'd still have those cost of retail percentages, right? Okay. So what would we do now? So we've gotten to that point. What would we do?
It's adjust for the index changes, right?
Yeah. Okay. So where would you do that? What would you deflate? We're going to deflate the retail first, and then take the cost percentage times it.
35?
Which might have been what went wrong. So just the 30, this 35?
36.
Just the 36.5?
That's what I was gonna say. But it could be available.
I think you do the whole available. You do the whole available. Okay? So you do the 37.5. So I take my 37.5, and let's say I had, what did I say, 20%?
So does that mean so you add in the 1,000 retail? I mean, that's the base for that, and then you...
Yeah. Well, it's really year-end prices on all of it. Right? You know, so you deflate the whole thing, right? Deflate the 37.5. So I take my 37.5. Let's say I had 20% is my increase, right? My price index. Divided by 120, and where will I be?
31,250.
Okay, so I've got 31,250. Okay, and then what am I going to do? Determine how much is my beginning inventory, which was 1,000. At retail, and then subtract that from the 31,250, and that's my base, right? Okay, which is 30,250. Then what do I want to do? Sorry, backwards. The beginning inventory is the base, right? This is the addition in year-end dollars. Or in base year dollars, I'm sorry. The addition I've brought down to base year dollars. And the assumption we're making here is that in the 31,250, that's at year-end dollars, which it would be, right? That's how you value it, okay? So I've got 1,000 left on the base, which would be times what? 1.0, right? That's my original layer. So that would be 1,000. Okay. And then what do I want to do with the increment? Bring the increment back up at the 1.2. It's going to get you almost back to the same place because there's only 1,000 there in the base. What's 3,250 times 1.2? I deflated at 1.2, and now I reinflate at 1.2, right? 36,300. Okay, now that's at retail, right? Retail for the new layer and retail for the base layer. Then what do you want to do?
Subtract
I didn't take out sales yet. Oh, crap. Gotta take the sales out first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You gotta take the sales out first. Okay, so I shouldn't have picked up the 37.5, I should have picked up the 12.5. Come on, Keith. It'd be 12.5, but then what would you want to do to that 12.5? Whoops.
So you divide 12.5 by 1.2?
Yes,
Okay.
that's it. So if I had 12.5 at year-end dollars, thank you. If I had 12.5 at year-end dollars, divided by 1.2 to get my inventory in base year dollars, how much is that?
10,417.
Okay, and that's the whole inventory in base year dollars. Take away the 1,000 that we had last year in base year dollars, and we got 9,417. The 1,000 times 1 is, of course, still 1,000, right? It's not that hard, Keith, come on. Okay, and then the 9,417 times 1.2 is your new layer, right? How much is that?
11,288.
Okay, now what do you want to do? Okay, so that's what that 12.5 inventory is with the base year plus the addition, right? So we just deflated, right? Okay. Now what?
So the 1,000 times the 50%, and then the 11,288 times the 54.8.
54.8%. Which were our two percentages, right, guys? We had 50% from last year, 54.8 from the addition this year, and that's going to give me my inventory at cost. So how much is that? 500, which is the original layer. 11,288 times 0.548.
66.86 total.
Oh, okay.
For that 61.82.
186. And you add it together. 686. Okay, that's your ending inventory at cost, right? Okay, how would you get your cost of goods sold?
Subtract that.
You got available 20,500 still, right? I think subtract 6,886 from it, and what would the cost of goods sold be?
13,814.
Okay, the way that one would go. Okay? Quite a bit to keep straight. I proved I can't do it, apparently. Okay, then, let's take a look at it. And we can work the problem too, last time. Let's take a look. I'm not going to test you on changing from conventional retail to LIFO. It's going to just be recalculated, right, with the new method, and then make a journal entry to adjust it. Debit or credit the inventory, and the adjustments record inventory at cost. So I don't think that's no big deal. Let's go back to on page 493. This does kind of good. And there's some problems that do this stuff. The retail inventory method becomes more complicated, special items related to retail. When we consider such items as freight-in, purchase returns allowances, and purchase discounts. Well, the same thing with sales discounts and sales returns allowances, for that matter. And you know, we got transfers in, we got normal shortages, abnormal shortages, employee discounts. Let's take a look at this stuff and think about it. We got some time. Really what we're doing on each of these. Okay. I've got my cost column, and I've got my retail column. For each one of these, what does it affect? So what's the first one there? Freight in. I think freight in is part of the cost. Add it, right? So if they gave you freight in separately from the purchases and purchase discounts and purchase returns and allowances, of course you add the freight in. Does the freight in change your retail sales price? No. Right? Not really. Probably you do your retail sales price based as a markup or margin, right? Yeah. Okay. So yes there, no here. You got it? It's going to feel like that. Yes and no. Okay. What's the next one?
Purchase returns.
Now this is a return. So what happens with the return?
That our inventory, we return it, right? So-
Yeah. So would you adjust your cost by that? Yeah. Yes. Would you adjust your retail for the sales price of that, seeing as you returned it and you don't have it available to sell? Really?
Well,
If I don't buy the inventory, think about purchases. When I purchase, the purchases go into cost, of course, right? They go into cost, yes, of course. Do they go into retail? Well, yeah. Add your markup to it. So this, all I'm doing is I'm undoing a purchase. I'm returning it to them. So what do you think?
well, yeah.
I'll subtract it and I'll subtract it in both places. And this can really hang you up, can it? Does that make sense? You're actually physically getting goods back, right? What's the next one?
Purchase discounts and allowances.
Okay, purchase discounts and allowances. Why would they put purchase discounts and allowances together? What does that do? That does not change your sales price of things. Right? You didn't physically return the goods, you just paid less for them. So what would you say?
Just cost.
Just cost. Makes sense, right? What's the next one?
I get it. Is it sales returns and allowances?
Yeah, we can do that. Let's do sales returns and allowances. Let's do sales discounts. What do you think you're going to do with that? Do those affect cost? No. Do they affect retail?
Yes.
Yes, both of them. It'd be net sales is what we said, right?
Yeah.
Net sales, so you come out of both, but they're not going to change what your purchase price was. Okay. Are you guys really sure of that?
What?
I think it's a problem. We get a little more sophisticated. I think it's kind of like the purchase discounts and allowances. The sales discounts and allowances is no and yes. Don't you think? Because it didn't change our cost at all. How about sales returns? But about a return, isn't that going to be exactly the same thing as a purchase return?
Well, so why in the book do they list it as sales returns and allowances and then sales?
Yeah, no, I don't like it. I disagree with it. But just think about it, right? Just think about
What you
it.
said makes sense though.
Yeah, I mean, on the purchase return, you no longer have the cost, you no longer have the goods available to sale. On the sales return, you no longer have the sale, right? So I'd add it back in, but I now have the goods back. So I'd add the cost of the goods back inside. Okay? They didn't show an example of that, but I think they're wrong. Okay, what else do we have here?
Transfer.
Yeah, so what's that? Transfers in from ourselves. Treated just the same way as a purchase from another company. So that's just purchase. More purchases. So transfer from myself to myself. For purposes, I'm going to have both the cost and the retail. So I do both. Anything? Yeah. How about normal shortages? Breakage, damage, theft, shrinkage.
You have less of routine. guess for both.
It should reduce the retail column because these goods are no longer available.
Yeah.
Such costs are reflected in the selling price because a certain amount of shortage is considered normal. As a result, companies do not consider this amount in computing the cost of retail. Rather than arriving at any inventory of retail, they show normal shortages to deductions similar to sales. So, what would you do with it? What they're saying is they're not going to change their cost of retail percentage. So the shortage does not affect either one of the, doesn't affect the percentages. Does it affect cost? No. Yeah. Does it affect retail? Goes straight to sales. So you write it right next to sales. So remember, sales doesn't have anything to do with the cost of retail percentage either, right? All of these things have to do with the cost of retail percentage. That one really doesn't. You don't change your cost and you don't change your retail either. It's just you put it next to sales, right? That makes sense? So that stuff is just another deduction. So what I have available at retail, I take away my sales and then I take away normal shrinkage. Okay, that sound good? Abnormal shortages are deducted from both the cost and retail columns. So it's really big. Somebody stole a whole bunch of my inventory. So how about that one? So this is the normal one. A shortage. Abnormal. Theft, fire, something went crazy. Yes? Yes. I don't have the goods available to sell, I don't have the cost of it, and I don't have the retail either one. Okay? That work? Employee discounts. Okay? For loyalty, better performance, whatever. Deducted from the retail column in the same way as sales. Why doesn't it affect the cost of retail? Because there's no cost associated with lowering the price for your employees. It's just like a markdown, right? So, employee discount. So they're just giving you a variety of things. There's all kinds of stuff that could hit this. No. And what is it? Goes to sales. You can write it right next to sales is what I mean. Right? Employee discount is adjusted for sales. Okay. It's not a storm or something.
It's not like a plane or
Airplane. Thanks for coming. Seeing a lot. Yeah. So, what else would you like to know? You got strange problems? Use the problem.
yeah, we can do. So like for like the 4 methods, like what we did earlier.
Yeah.
That's what we need to know. Just like how to do that.
Okay. Yeah.
If we're gonna do those in class, we're gonna do them.
We'll probably do an example in class.
Something similar to what we already did.
Yeah.
How early?
We're gonna start class. Well, as soon as people get here, I sent out that email. I was hoping at least 15 minutes early, but then I forgot that I need to record this. But what I could do is we could stop this. I could record it, and then we have to take a break. It's quite a while.
Yeah, we have.
You could just study on your own, or we could work on stuff on it.
I mean, one that I was doing was the retail LIFO was about 27.
Okay. Why don't we work that, and then we'll save this so I can copy it over.
Okay.
And we'll take a break, and then when people get here, hopefully at 4:15 or.
Well, I mean, at this point, we've covered everything at least, like for the chapter. So like,
pretty much. We're in pretty good shape. And so I'll do it in class. Fix this one. And you'll probably use a problem. So you were working on which one?
27.
Exercise. 27? Okay. The dollar value line for retail? Yeah, that's right. I mean, the price index at the beginning is 100. And they did all their cost to retail percentages for the new year, right? In each case. So you have the old year for the old layers, and you have the new year for the new layers, don't you? Compute the inventory for each of those years, so that, yeah, that's a pretty tough one. Let's try exercise number 7. Okay. All right, so how would you start this thing? You get the first year, what would you do? And we don't have, on this one, we don't have to calculate the cost of retail, they've done it for us. So we're just gonna use the layers with the index, right? So what do you want to do? In 2012, they said they had 100,000, right? Here's 2012, base year. Retail, whoops. I guess it's backwards. Cost, retail, percentage, cost of retail percentage. Okay, so in the base year, we've got 54,000 and 100,000. Why'd they give us that? So we know the index for that year, right? Oh, by the way, what I didn't say before is what if you reduce your inventory from the beginning of the year? You have no new layer, right? The dollar value LIFO. If you reduce the inventory in base year dollars, you have no new layer, which is probably going to happen here.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah. And you dip back into the layers. So that's your base. So the first 100,000 that I have at retail in base year dollars is at 54% or 54,000. If I go below 100,000, it's at 54%, and there are no new layers, right? Always completing the most recent layer. So let's do 2013 then. What do we have in 2013? At retail, it is 138,750. So I've got 138,750 at retail. And then what do I want to do to that? Get it down to base year dollars, right? So this is year end. Let's get it down to base. What would you divide it by?
13 is 118,720.
Oh, wait, oh, I'm sorry.
Maybe you skipped 14.
118,720. There we go. What do you want to divide it by? 106.
106.
And what that's going to give me is my base, right? At retail. Okay. So what is 118,720 divided by 1.06?
112.
112 even? All right. That's nice of them. So now this is base. 112. Okay. And they told me my percentage is what, by the way? 57%. So I would have had to calculate that really, of course, right? It's 57%. So what do I want to do? What's my new layer? New layer at base is 12,000. And what do you want to inflate that at? 1.06, I think. So how much is that?
12,720.
Then what do you want to do with that? Take it times 57%. That's my new layer, right? And that year's was 57% for anything you added that year.
7250.
The new layer is 7250. Okay? All right. So they'd have 54,000 plus 7250 for their inventory. Is that what they did?
Oh, I didn't.
Anybody have
write
their
that down.
anybody have their computer, their answers with them? And
Give me a
we can call it up. Looks like the inventory would be 61. 250.
Yeah. That's what they had.
That's what they had to. Okay, good. Okay, makes sense? I've got 54,000 from my base year, right? Because it was 54, it was 100,000 and it was 54, so it was 54%. I added a 12,000 base year layer. I know that 12 is added because 118,720, all of it. By the way, 1.06 is 112. 112 netted with the 100 that I had in the base year, right? Gave me a 12 for a new layer. Reinflated at 106, and then take it times its cost to retail. So the 12,000 times 106 was 12,720 times 57% is 7250. We're working on exercise 927. That's what that one. Okay. So let's try another year. Let's try 2014. What would you do for 2014 layer? All right. What do I have at retail in 2014 at the year end? 138,750. What's my cost to retail percentage? At this, I'm sorry, what is my price index?
111.
Yeah, 111. So if we deflate that down to base, right? So we're doing year end, get it down to base, there's my index, right? Year end, there's my index to get it down to base. What's the base going to be?
125.
So that's in base dollars. So in base dollars, I have a total of 125,000 here. Okay, so I've got 100 from the base year, right? I've got 12 from 2013. You guys with me? That's the 12 increase here. So what's my new one for this year? That's 112. So I must have added what? We got 125, 13,000 in base year dollars. So this is the new layer. This was the 2013 layer. This is the new layer for 2014. Now I have 3 layers. What do I want to do with that? I bought it when the price index was 1.11. How much is that? In retail dollars, that layer is how much? 13,000 times 1.11.
14,430.
14,430. All right, but that's in base year dollars. Now what do I need to know? Well, what was my cost to retail percentage that year? And of course, you would have taken your cost divided by the retail to get that percentage. Right? So there's a shortcutting here. How much is that? 60%? So I want to take that new layer times 60%, don't I? 14,430 times 60% is what?
8658.
What's my inventory now? It's all 3 of those added together, right? So I'll have my 54 from the base year, 2012. From 2013, I have 7250. From 2014, right, I have 8658. And what's the 2014 inventory?
69,980.
So I've got a 2012 inventory of 54,000. I've got a 2013 inventory of 61,250. 2014 is 69,908. We still agreeing with the authors? Okay. All right. And then it looks like we're going to deplete it. So let's do the next one. We are on page 513, exercise 927. Thank you. And we muddled around with some stuff earlier. I guess we're in, what, an hour maybe or something. Yeah, 15 minutes. So you might want to watch it later. We'll cover it in class a little bit too. So 120, 2015, do a new layer for that one. Okay, here we go. So I have how much, and I don't care how you set this up. The author sets it up a little differently than I do. I do it a little differently every time I do it anyway, just sort of keeping it straight. So what do we have at the end of 2015 and 2015 dollars? Ending inventory retail, right? index in the year we bought those is now up to 115. So what would it have cost us in the base year to buy those? I got year-end at retail, right? The price index to bring it down to year-end retail and base dollars. What is that? We're on exercise 927 on page 5.
109.
109, and you can see we just depleted some layers, didn't we? Now that's in base dollars, right guys? Everybody agree? These are year-end retail, they're all retail. Okay. This is year-end, this is the index, and then this is base. In all three cases, right? Year-end, still doing, this is base, and both of them are retail, right? Year-end prices and based on prices. Okay, so what do we want to do with that 109? We want to dip into some of the layers. So what do we have the first year? 100. 100 from the base year.
Oh, yeah.
Right, so we only need 9 now. We need 9. We're going to keep the base of 100, right? And we only need 9. 9 of which one? This one, right? And what's going to happen to the 13? It's gone. Ah, this one's gone completely, and this one's reduced to 9. Oh, so this one's completely gone, this one's completely gone, we still have this one, and whoops, this one's completely gone here. This one is reduced. What's it reduced down to? Well, what would we do for that? So there's going to be no 2015 layer, right? There's now going to be no 2014 layer, but I am going to have a 2013 layer left, right? How much 2013 layer are you going to have left? So I'm going to keep this one, right, the 54,000, and how much do I have left? 9,000, right? 109, away netted with 100. You guys with me? 109,000 in 2015. Netted with the 100 that we started with up here, is there's a 9,000 layer, but what year is that from? 2013, isn't it? Everybody agree? So what was the index in 2013?
106.
106 equals 9540 and 040.
Yeah, use the 2013 percentage now?
Yes. Use the index. Whoops, 95. Come on, kid. What's wrong with my brain today? 9540. I'm going to try and put another 0 in there. So 9,000 times 1.06 is 9540. Okay. So now this is a retail. So what do you want to do? Get it down to cost. So you're going to have to pick up the percentage at that time, right? So I'm using the index at that time and the percentage at that time, cost of retail percentage. Okay, so this one got kind of tough, didn't it? That's 57%. What's that number? 5438. So what's my total inventory then at the end of 2015? 54,000 plus 5438. How much is that?
59,438.
59,438. Those two layers, and that's my 2015 year-end inventory on my financial statements. Wow. Okay. Do we agree with the author still?
Yes.
Okay. Let's do one more, the last one. 2016 is going to have a new layer, isn't it? What do we have in 2016? Year-end is what?
162,500.
162,500. Yeah, like that. 162,500. What's the price index at that time?
125.
What would it have cost us in the base year to buy it? 130?
Yeah, 130.
Yeah. So do I have a new layer? Well, what do I have right now? I have 109, right? 100 plus 9. You guys good? It was 109 last year. Now it's 130. What's the new layer? I'm gonna take 130 away from the 109 I had the year before, okay? So if I take the 130 and net it with the 109, what's my new one? 21,000. So this is the new layer from 2016. Okay, it's 21,000. That's in base dollars, though. What'd you pay for them this year? The index is 1.25. So bring it back up by the index. Gives me my new layer in retail dollars. How much is that?
26,250.
Okay. What's my cost percentage this year? 58%. It happens. 26,250 times 58 is going to be the new layer for 2016. How much is that?
15,225.
So now what do I have? I have 54 from the base year. I have from the second year, 2013 up here, right? I have part of my 2013 layer left, 5438, which is why I had 59,438 last year. And I add my new layer for this time, 2016 layer, it's 15,225. What's my total ending inventory at the end of 2016? 59,438 plus 15,225, right?
74663.
Are we still in agreement?
Yes.
Got it on a roll there, didn't we? So what's the trick? Discount first. Or discount first for the inflation rate, right? For the index. Then determine if you have a new layer or not. If you have a new layer, the new layer gets reinflated, and take it times the cost percentage for that year, right? And the base year just stays the same. Okay, now let's say that we had this happen. Let's do one more year, okay? Let's say in 2017 we adopt just in time, and what we've got is now. Let's say we go down to $102,000 year-end inventory. Okay, that's at 2017. Okay, and let's say my price index is 1.30. Get a little more inflation. It's going to have a lot of inflation. 102 divided by 1.30 is how much?
78,462.
This would be a very easy one to do. That's in base dollars, isn't it? So what do I have left? It's retail sales price. What do I have left? This layer disappears, which means that inventory's gone. This layer, the 9,000, that was that one, I'm sorry. That one's gone. Oh, and my new layer, this 21 disappears, the 15, I crossed it off. This one disappears, that's the $9,000 one. What's left? Part of the base year, but not all of it, right? I've only got 78. So in base dollars, this is from 2012, base dollars, 2012 layer, right? How much of that layer is left? All of that. What's not left? Looks to me like it's 78 now instead of 100 in retail dollars, right? So 21.5 has disappeared, huh? I reduced my inventory. Now I actually physically reduced my inventory. Okay, times what? What's the price index in the base year? 1. So times 1.0, well that's meaningless, right? And then what do you want to do? Take it times what?
54.
The 54% you had the base year. So it's really easy. So what's 78,462 times 54%? It's part of this 54,000, right? Left. How much is it?
42,369.
Okay. Does that make sense? Does that kind of clear up any problem you had? Okay. When you drop into those base layers, just whatever there was in the earlier year, right? Okay. Good. Okay, what we were going to do was take a short break. See how many people get here and when. We got a lot of people. And then and we'll start again and keep going. I'm gonna leave, you saw my email? I'm gonna try and leave. Last time when I had to be downtown at 6 and I left here at 4:45, I got downtown at 6:15, so maybe I'll leave in half an hour. So, rip you off. I already took a day to go on vacation, didn't I? Oh, that wasn't a vacation, that was an academic exercise. Presented a paper. Did present a paper.